Friday. Happy Friday, February 19th, 2021. Got the sun in my eyes, so got my glasses on so that I can see. And I'm still in the Atlanta area. Beautiful weekend. Expected temps in the 50s all weekend. I know next week will be in the 60s. And looking forward to next weekend. We'll be down in Port Richey, Florida, which is northwest of Tampa. Temps will be in the 70s to 80s next weekend. So that starts on February 27th. That's next Saturday from 1 to 5. We're doing a deliverance training. Got a lot of people signed up on Facebook. It's nice to be back on Facebook again and to have the ministry, more importantly, on Facebook at Restored to Freedom. And so we also, on Sunday, the 28th, next Sunday, we'll be again in Port Richey at DTM Church doing the actual breakthrough events. That's like a corporate deliverance session, and then we'll be doing some private sessions in the afternoon for people that want to sign up for that. Again, you can sign up for all that stuff on Eventbrite. You can just go out to Eventbrite, or you can go out to Facebook. Go out to Restore to Freedom, and you'll get the link for signing up for Eventbrite and get yourself registered to attend. Expecting a good crowd to come to that, so yay. And then I might be going to Birmingham, Alabama the weekend after that. I should know more by next week. Again, that would be on March the 6th if I come there. And then right now, I may be going, I'm not sure where I'll do some ministry at. I might be doing it in Atlanta, maybe down in Hilton Head Island, or maybe in Savannah later in March. I'll let you know. And then April 3rd, coming to Luray, Virginia, which is in the western part of Virginia, to Cooters Place. That's the guy that was on the Dukes of Hazzard. I've been there before a couple of years ago in August of 2019. So looking forward to going back there. Had a great time last time. Had a lot of fun, enjoyed the people, great people that are there. Had great meals, and did a Sunday morning deliverance session. So we're doing that again. Again, Easter Sunday, April the 3rd at Cooters in Luray, Virginia. And then June 12th, June 13th, Bernie, California. We'll be going back there. It's up in Northern California. I'll probably be adding some other spots there too. So yay. Yeah, it's just a beautiful day. Very peaceful here in northeast of Atlanta, and just enjoying the weather, enjoying friends, and just having a very peaceful time as the Lord is allowing new growth. You know, there's new stuff's happening. It's great to see a lot of private sessions that we've been seeing tremendous results from, and then those people end up wanting their relatives to be set free and delivered. So again, I've been doing anywhere from 5 to 8 private sessions a week, and just seeing tremendous results within typically 45 minutes to an hour in a person's life. You know, when it comes down to getting hurt and wounded, like we all have, from our whatever fathers, mothers, stepfathers, stepmothers, you know, relationships that we had growing up, if we've not truly forgiven those people in our hearts, then the enemy will have legal rights, enemy will torment, and we can have physical problems with our bodies, be a mess. And when you get delivered, you have so much more peace, so much more peaceful thoughts, so much more joy. Saves a lot of money on healthcare stuff. Again, I've spent nothing on healthcare. I last had health insurance when I worked corporately, which was back in 2012. So that's been how many years now? 9 years. 9 years without health insurance, and not spent one penny on Tylenol, ibuprofen, any type of medications, and also not anything on vitamins. So it saves a lot of money when you don't have to spend it on health stuff. And you'll see that. You'll see those results when you truly forgive people from your hearts, when you command the demons to go from tormenting your thoughts and your mind and your body, And it's a great, amazing revelation that I was never taught when I was growing up in, Presbyterian church and Church of God and Assembly of God, and did not realize how Christians are affected by demons, and they're tormented in our minds from reminding us of all the bad things people have done to hurt us in the past, and continually to have anger and bitterness towards those people and those memories and the traumas and the wounds. So anyways, looking forward to this topic of the day. I don't know that I've talked to this specifically, but it's you can't have peace without trusting the Lord. A lot of times what will happen is when we get wounded, we get hurt, we get angry and bitter, and people trigger us. We have memories of those traumas. And if you don't go back to the original wound and get that healed, then you will continue to trigger your whole life. In your marriage or marriages, you will go off on people, you will get angry. And it goes back to when you were first hurt. When you go back to get that wound healed, when you ask Jesus to come to give you a word, to give you insight as to what went on. In fact, I was watching an interview that I did with my mentor, Scott Vitcon, from last March in Phoenix. And actually, I talked to him last week. And I said, Scott, I said, there's times where people don't remember. They block things out from the traumas that happened to them. What do you do when that happens? And he said, what I do is I get people healed from certain things that they remember, and then we can command, the demonic spirit that has been tormenting that person from the very first time they could be sexually molested or whatever, and then we interrogate it. We command it to let us know. So what happened? And if the person's, again, ready to receive it, oftentimes we block it out until we're ready to receive. When we get older, when we can handle it, then that demonic spirit will tell them, your uncle touched you sexually, your father, your grandfather, whatever, things that you blocked out. And then oh my gosh, then you can get that wound healed. You can ask Jesus to come, give you insight as to why did that happen? Why did my uncle do this? Well, your uncle was also sexually molested when he was young. That's the only reason why he would have done that. Oh, yes. Or maybe he was exposed to pornography. And when you can understand it, you can see it from the Lord's perspective, then you can forgive the person. Say, oh my gosh, yeah, he was wounded. She was wounded. That's why they did what they did to me. So I forgive them from my heart in Jesus' name. And that takes away legal rights of the demons. Then you can command the demons to go to the pit and be gone. In fact, I think it was, yesterday I was doing a session with a lady, and so cool that we were getting the wounds healed, from her father, from her mother, from someone I think that touched her sexually. And as the wounds were being healed, and then we commanded the demons to go, she could literally hear the demons screaming as they left. They're like, oh my gosh, I can kind of sense that they're like going to the pit now. They're like, ah. I'm like, yeah, they don't like going to the pit, but that's where they need to go. And then you're healed from that. And she kept feeling lighter and lighter and better and better. And so what will happen is when you get healed from the wounds from the past, command the demons to go, you don't get a lot of that chatter in your mind anymore from the enemy. And if you do hear from the enemy, you can discern that it's coming from the enemy. So many times we hear thoughts in our head and we don't stop the thoughts and take them captive. We listen, let the enemy speak a whole sentence to us, reminding us of traumas and wounds from the past, and say, you know what, this relationship you're in is going to be just like that relationship you had. Or this is a man just like your dad was a man. So therefore, your dad hurt you, didn't protect you, and now your husband is not going to protect you. So you end up oftentimes looking upon your current relationships based upon the past relationships. Same thing with men. Men were hurt, say, by their moms. They're like, they hear voices telling them from demons, couldn't trust your mom. All she did is control you. You better tell your wife what to do. Yeah. I'm not going to listen to her. I'm going to let her have it. I'm going to tell her everything. You're going to do things my way because I don't trust you. They may not come out that straightforward and say that, but that's how they behave. That's the voices they're hearing. And oftentimes you're believing these lies that the demons have told you since you were a little girl, a little boy. So that's why when you get the wounds healed, you can see the people through Jesus, his eyes, and why they hurt you. Then you can forgive. You can forgive anyone. That's what you have to do if you want to truly be freed. And then the chatter in your mind will be much less, And then you can discern, oh my gosh, that's a thought coming from a demon. Why would I listen to that? That's a lie. I'm not going to listen. I'm going to shut that down. I'm going to think about something else that is good, that is true. And then what will happen is over time, and it may take you a year, it may take you 2 years to discern the voice of the enemy and then stop it. Because if you don't take the thoughts captive from the demons, then they'll take you captive and you'll ruin and self-sabotage your relationships. You will be triggered and go off on people believing that you're right, they're wrong, when oftentimes you are the one that is off. You take an offense at the drop of a hat. There's a lot of people that struggle with the spirit of Jezebel and Leviathan that take an offense at the drop of a hat. They'll speak words to you that will offend you, but you're supposed to just take it. And then if you say one thing back to them to remind them of the truth about them, they'll take an offense. Harumph, 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 harumph. How dare you speak to me like that? It's like, really? Seriously? You can't have it both ways. But yet people with demons do. So again, you get all these negative thoughts in your mind and you listen to them. Just listen to one sentence from a demon. You're not going to be at peace. You're not going to have a good day. You're not going to laugh. You're not going to have fun. You're going to be, maybe introspectively, maybe you'll be very quiet. And you'll be, oh my gosh, if I speak out what I'm feeling, then that might cause the person to be upset at me. Or there's people that speak their minds and they're like, I'm just like this, and they go off on people all the time and it ruins their relationships. Nobody likes to be yelled at, controlled, manipulated. So ultimately, if you're hearing demonic stuff from the enemy, or maybe you're feeling things, it feels like, when I take a person through a deliverance session, I say, okay, let's go back to that original trauma. What did it feel like? I always ask them, what does it feel like? What did it feel like to you when maybe they were touched sexually? Well, I felt dirty. I felt bad. I felt guilty and ashamed. I was a little girl. I didn't know what to do. And so what will happen is if we go back to that wound, you call that back up, then that person can be triggered into saying, oh my gosh, this is how I feel. I felt so violated. And then at that point, we ask Jesus to come. And when Jesus comes, he will take that wound from you. He died on the cross for our wounds and our transgressions. And he may give you a word and say, you know what, I am so sorry that you went through that. I will, protect you now though. And then when that wound gets transferred over to Jesus, then we can take authority, command the demons to go. And you may have to forgive the person too. But boy, when you do that, man, your life changes. No longer are you going to get pummeled by 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day, of which 80% are negative. 95% the same thoughts you had the day before, which is what the National Science Foundation found in a study in 2005. It's interesting because I've not read one thing that I've written yet. So it's kind of cool. When you are healed and delivered from that stuff, oh my gosh, you have so much peace, peace that passes all understanding. And then you can trust the Lord. I've had to trust the Lord for a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't think I could ever. The old Nelson would not have been able to do this ministry because I would have looked at the circumstances and said, oh my gosh, oh my goodness, how am I going to make money? Because I told the Lord, I will never ask for money, ever. I make it an opportunity on my worldwide deliverances once a month if people want to, which most people don't. But I let the Lord speak to people. And if their lives have been changed in the ministry, then most of them will make a donation. Not all of them. But there's so many people that are like, oh my gosh, the Lord told me that I'm to sow into the ministry. Or their lives were changed, or their marriages were saved. And so they do that. And I'm like, well, that's great. So through this whole thing with the pandemic, I'm like, most people were like, oh, got to shut down, got to stay at home. And I'm like, well, I don't have a home. I'm homeless. I live in other people's homes. What should I do, God? God's like, well, keep on doing ministry. I'm like, well, that sounds good to me. So I did. And I was out in Phoenix. Then I went out to Las Vegas after that. Right when things were shutting down, went to California. Supposed to only have 10 people. We had 35 people that came to the church in Anaheim. And the Lord kept opening the doors. Went all the way up Northern California, went to Portland, went to Seattle in April. So, but what did that require on my part? It required me trusting the Lord. And when you get to the point where you start seeing the Lord come through for you, then it's like it increases your faith. to be able to be stretched to handle the next fiasco that might come up. And so I kept trusting the Lord, trusting the Lord. What was interesting was with Facebook, they made it even harder for us to share these events with people, to invite them. It used to be very simple. We could simply go out to the event, click on invite, and then see all these friends, and then say click, 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 invite, 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 invite. Well, they turned that feature off. And we're like, what? What did you do that for? That's going to make it a lot harder. Now we got to send private messages. And then Christmas Eve, they decided to not even warn and shut down my personal Facebook. And then they ultimately shut down Restored to Freedom. We had 58,000 followers. That's a lot of followers. It took many years to get to that point. And so most people would have said, oh my gosh, oh dear, the sky is falling. And I didn't. I sat down to dinner with this family and had Thanksgiving, it was Christmas, Christmas food, and didn't worry about it. I'm like, okay, Lord, this is your ministry. However it's going to happen, I don't know, but it's yours. I'm not going to make things happen. I'm not going to be crying about it. And so I did. I kept my peace on and trusted the Lord. And the Lord continued to come through. He still has. And so it's interesting because, I see a lot of these people on ministry, in ministries and stuff, or even not even in ministry. And they will oftentimes cry and say, I need money, I need this. Well, I look at them and I say, my gosh. I go, they're not trusting the Lord. That's not a good example, especially if they're in ministry. I go, you're trying to manipulate people. I remember attending some of these big conferences, and they would put such a hard hammer down on people to donate and to give. It was disgusting to my stomach. It was sickening. I'm like, Lord, I don't like this. They're trying to manipulate people, trying to guilt trip people, trying to make them give. And I fell for it initially. When I ended up attending some of these big conferences, I gave to the point I had nothing left to give. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I go, that's kind of bad. And then I finally talked to some people a couple years after, you don't have to give when they put the pressure on you. That, and I'm like, well, why do they put the pressure on you? I go, why don't they just say, give whatever the Holy Spirit tells you to? And these people, they would every time they would put, and they'd bring people up that would speak, that would put pressure on you. And you could feel it, and it felt yucky, and gross. So anyways, the number one thing that a person has to do is to truly forgive all those who have hurt them in the past. That's the number one thing. And if you can't forgive, then ask Jesus to come to give you a word. Give you a word. And allow you to see the people that hurt you, that they were hurt. That's the only reason why. Then you can truly forgive them. Give them to the Lord. And then you can take authority, command the demons to go. You can get yourself delivered. Again, there's people out there that do deliverance. Again, my mentor, Scott Bitcon's delivered, over 12,000 people and over 1,000 pastors. It's a ton, and he helped me to see how important and critical that it was to actually get the soul wounds healed and even to interrogate the demons. I didn't really want to talk to the demons before that. And he said, you know what? He goes, that's the thing, is if you can command the demons to tell you what went on in the person's life, then you can find out some things as to what happened, and it explains so much. And then you take away the legal rights through forgiveness of people that hurt you, through repentance for what you've done to hurt other people, and then taking away the legal rights, there's nothing left. They can't stay anymore. Then you take authority in Jesus' name and command the demons to go. Command the demons to go. So, and there's a lot of people that talk about inner healing, but inner healing, without the deliverance, is unfortunately not effective. You've got to go to take authority, like Jesus said, and cast the demons out. A third of his ministry was deliverance. So we don't have to be afraid of the demons. We have authority over them. Again, I've done tons of sessions with people, and very, very, very few have ever manifested. And I take authority over that stuff so that they don't. So anyways, all right. So when people hear the enemy, give them thousands of thoughts a day and believe maybe 1% of them. Most people believe more than that. Most people believe probably more than half maybe of what they hear that the demons are telling them. Well, guess what? They're not going to have peace, and they're not trusting the Lord. They can say that they are, but if you have to, If you have fear and anxiety all the time, that's coming from demons. The demons are reminding you of things and saying, you know what? If you don't do this, this bad thing's going to happen. You know what? This bad thing is going to happen because you didn't do that. You know what? You're not going to have any money, so therefore you better ask your friends for $1,000 each. You know, you better do this or do that or do this and do that. I mean, there's a myriad of thousands of things the demons can do to torment a person. And you won't have peace, and you can't trust the Lord at that point because you're hearing all these demonic stuff. So the most critical thing is to go through inner healing and deliverance and be freed from, who knows, maybe 85% of the demonic spirits. And then walk it out. Then you got to take the thoughts captive. You should be able to discern the thoughts from the enemy at that point. And again, you could have feelings in your body, feelings in your heart that remind you of how you felt in the past. But that's why you've got to take the thoughts captive and even the feelings captive. And saying, hey, I'm going to take authority over that in Jesus' name. And then speak the truth. And I'll say this from personal experience. So I didn't know I had demons that could speak to me. I was not taught that in church, like most all of us. And so I could pray in tongues, but I would struggle. I wouldn't have peace. And then when the Lord delivered me, it was in September of 2008. I remember waking up and I just felt a lot of peace. I didn't hear a lot of the negative stuff, but I still did hear the enemy, but I could discern it eventually. When I started getting mentored, I said, oh my gosh, well, if these thoughts that I'm hearing are from demons, why would I listen to them? Why would I listen to them? Why? Why wouldn't I stop it as soon as I discern it? Because I'm not going to have a good day. Again, there was an example that I was in Chicago late last year, and there was these two people in a canoe that were coming down this river, and the Lord showed me, as I'm doing my Facebook Live at that point, that what if the guy in the behind of the canoe was a demon? And they were saying all these negative words to the person in the canoe that was paddling, and said, you know what? You're going to lose your job. And then you're going to lose all the money that you've saved up. And your friend's going to turn against you, and you're going to get a divorce, and your kid's going to hate you, and all this negative stuff. What would you do if you knew that person was a demon and they kept speaking those words to you? If you let them, you're going to have a miserable day. They're going to torment you, and you're like, oh my gosh, nothing I can do about it. But what if you could take your oar and whack them into the water and be done? And you could have peace then. So many people, when they've gone through inner healing and deliverance, are like, oh my gosh, I don't hear all that enemy chatter now. I didn't think it was possible. My entire life was hearing these negative voices. I didn't know they were demons. The church told me I couldn't have demons. I'm a Christian. And I can explain it like this. My mentor explains it like this too. Is you have a body, have a spirit, and you have a mind. A soul. Your soul is comprised of your mind, which is your thoughts, which the enemy wants to give you thoughts. And if you let the enemy keep speaking those thoughts to you, no matter if you are a Christian, no matter if you can prophesy, pray in tongues, then guess what? You're not going to have peace. You're going to manifest in either fear, either anxiety, being angry at your spouse, being triggered, going off on them. So you have to take the thoughts captive. I had to do that. It took me, year and a half to actually take the thoughts captive. I'm like, why would I listen to more than 3 words from a demon? If I do, I'm not going to be at peace. I'm going to think that thought they gave me is going to happen. Oh my gosh. And they're always going to make you have fear and get angry and ruin your life. So you got to take the thoughts captive. As soon as you start hearing the thoughts, shut it down. Do not let them speak more than 3 words. And it's true. I think I put that in my book, Keep Your Peace On. Is as soon as you discern it, shut it down. Because if you don't, those thoughts will cause you to lose your peace, to ruin hours of your day, if not the entire day, to ruin your sleep. And then you think about the thoughts again and again and again. So to get rid of them, we must forgive everyone from our hearts who have hurt us and really mean it. And ask the Lord if you need to. Show me that person. Why did my dad do this to me? Why did my mom? Why did my uncle? Why did the pastor? Why did the policeman? Why did all these bad things happen to me? Bad things happen because people have demons, and the demons tell them what to do, and then they act it out. That's the only reason why anyone would show you pornography, would touch you sexually, is because it's more than likely happened to them, and they pass it on. And as long as you listen and entertain and give the thoughts, give the demons a whole sentence, if not a whole paragraph, if not a whole book by the end of each day, and you hear the same thoughts over and over and over and over again, you have to actively take the thoughts captive. Shut it down. And that's what I would do. You know, when I had a bulge the size of a golf ball on my spine, I could have gotten into fear because the enemy was trying to tell me it was cancer, trying to tell me it was a cyst, and I didn't let him, because I knew if I listened to the sentence, I might get into fear. I might then run to the doctor and saying, oh my gosh, I don't know what this is, please tell me. And then the doctor would say probably, oh, yep, it's cancer, or nope, it's a tumor, or well, it's a cyst, and then I'd have to listen to him to try to fix it and pay the money for it. So I didn't want to do that. I'm like, Lord, I want you to heal me. He's like, well, I can't if you get into fear. You get into fear, you're on the enemy's territory. He's got you. He's got legal rights now to keep on feeding you, and you're going to listen to him. So the only recourse you have is going to the doctor. And so in my case, I'm like, I don't want to. It costs money. I don't have the money to go to the doctor. So yeah, I need you to heal me. He's like, well, I will, but you got to stay in peace. Don't get into fear. And I'm like, okay, well, he goes, as long as you stay at peace, then I can do that, and I want to. But as soon as you get into fear, you've crossed over the line. You're now on the enemy's side, and he's got legal rights, and he'll keep speaking to you. And you'll have to take the recourse of whatever the doctor might say. So ultimately, it took like 6 weeks, and finally started to go down a little by little by little, and then it was gone. But I prayed for it. I expected it to be gone, and it didn't. So what do? Well, you got to trust the Lord, right? If you get out of trusting the Lord, you get into fear, you're now got the enemies, has authority over you. So you've got to actively listen to the thoughts coming to you or the feelings, take the thoughts captive. And if you've not gone through inner healing and deliverance yet, you need to do that. Again, you can watch our videos. I explain it in the videos. The deliverance videos have been very effective. They're on YouTube every month, the last Sunday of the month. So the next time I'm doing one, at this point I'm going to be very tired, but it'll be February the 28th, because I'll be ministering in the morning, doing private sessions all afternoon, and then doing a deliverance session at 9 o'clock in Florida, corporately. But people that watch that, they understand. They're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I got wounded, I got hurt. And that makes me very mad and very angry. And I hate those people. I wish they would die. Well, then guess what? Demons can talk to you now, and you will not have peace. And you could have a lot of sickness in your body because of all that. It's changed my life when I learned all this. And I'm like, my gosh, Lord, I go, they should teach this in Bible school. They should teach this in every church. Because I'm like, the testimony that I've seen in my life, and then there's been others that have seen the same thing in their lives that have followed the ministry. They're like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing, greatest thing since sliced bread. Why aren't they teaching us this? And I'm like, well, you probably think the demons don't want them to teach it. So they'll cause the pastors to have fear. You better not tell people that they can actually have demons. You better not teach them about their authority. They're going to think you're crazy. They're going to leave. They're going to take all their tithes away. You're not going to have any money. And so they water down their messages. They don't teach the truth anymore. And so there's a lot of people in ministry, a lot of people in churches who have been hurt, who've been wounded, who have fear, who don't have peace, who are on the enemy's territory. They don't truly trust the Lord. They may say that they do, but actions speak louder than words. So, all right, I have not read really much of anything. Let me go into it. So if you listen to just a couple of thoughts on the enemy every day, you will not have much peace, if any. When you shut down the enemy's voice after a few words and trust the Lord to meet all your needs, then you will have peace in your mind, in your life. People who hear the enemy speaking to them every day will never know peace. Most Christians and leaders in the church do not have peace. Most leaders and Christians in the church are affected by demons. That's the truth. How do you know they're affected by demons? Well, they're going to say things that are going to hurt you. They're going to be controlling, going to be manipulative. They're going to have pride. All these things that are the fruit of the flesh, not the fruit of the Spirit. Galatians 5:16 through 26. Just read that. It talks about the first part of it. All those things that would affect a person in the flesh. Jealousy, envy, dissensions, strife, sexual stuff that's not pure. So all that stuff is from the enemy side. And there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that are in the church, that are teaching, that are pridefully teaching, and want to control you, want to manipulate you. And it's because they've got wounds. They've got wounds. So hello, Mindy, hello. Folks out there, it's been interesting being on YouTube instead of on Facebook. And it's neat because, when that happened, when the Facebook people said, we're gonna shut everything down, I stayed at peace. Didn't freak out. People that know me, close to me, and I'm like, well, gee, what do I do now, Lord? And Lord's like, well, why don't you do it on YouTube? I'm like, okay, I'll do it on YouTube. So it's been kind of fun doing it on YouTube. We've seen an increase of something like 10 people a day subscribing to the YouTube channel. And I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. I needed to grow that. Yeah, we had, just over 4,000. Now we're up to, 4,410, something like that. So that's good because everybody can access YouTube. Not everybody's on Facebook. And a lot of people have migrated off of Facebook. So anyways, so what is cool is that because of not freaking out and staying at peace, and there's times that, the Lord would stretch me, and I might, and that's the thing, it's interesting. If you can look back in your life of all the times that you kind of freaked out, that you got into fear and anxiety and worry and so forth, it's all the enemy territory. You couldn't really trust the Lord because you're hearing a lot of stuff from the enemy or feeling a lot of stuff from the enemy. When you're healed and delivered from all that stuff, then you could stay at peace. But when you look backwards on all that, how many times did you waste how many hours in getting into fear, getting into worry, when you could have been at peace the whole time? I remember that in my life, thinking about all the times that, oh my gosh, a lot of times I would get hit financially. I would be worried. I made a good amount of money when I was working in the corporate world, and I saved a whole bunch of it. And that was my goal, to be a millionaire by the time I was 40. And I was on my way to that until the Lord started to get a hold of me and eventually asked me, what is it that you want in your life? What is it that you want? And I'm like, well, I thought it was money, but I guess it's peace. I want peace. So he said, okay, I'll take away all the money that you got, and then I'll give you peace. And when I've got your heart and your soul the way that it should be, then I will have you start to help people, help them like in ministry. And then eventually I will bring the money back way greater than it was before, but you'll use a lot of that money for kingdom purposes and not just for yourself, not for selfish reasons. And I look back and I'm thinking, yeah, I go, that makes sense. But I had to change. I had to change my heart and give it all to the Lord, and to love people like Christ loved the church, and to have a heart for them, and to be able to see past when they're being angry or they're lying or they're being jealous or mean. I had to see past all that to why. And then I had developed more of the Lord's heart, where I was more patient and kind and gentle and all the fruit of the Spirit. And then I could see them like Christ. And then my heart really had compassion for anyone who was hurt, anyone that, is mean even. A lot of times people, they can love on people that are nice to them, but you get a person that's going to be mean to you, that really puts the pedal to the metal and rubber to the road. Are you truly going to be able to love them like Christ? Or are you going to say, I don't like you because you're mean to me, so therefore I hate you and I want nothing to do with you? There's obviously truth in parting from people who are filled full of demons that want to hurt you, that want to lie about you. I've had to block many people on Facebook and YouTube and separate from them, just like Jesus did. Jesus came for separation, not for unity. He talks about father against son, mother against daughter, Mother-in-law against daughter-in-law. You could say husband against wife, wife against husband. If a person chooses Jesus and the other person doesn't, you can't be best buds with the person. You got to love them from afar. But you do have a heart that you should have, a love for everyone. Even those that are mean to you. If you go through a divorce, you shouldn't be hating or angry at all the things that the person did. If you can see them through Christ's eyes, you can forgive them. Yeah, you can think about it and remember, oh my gosh, that was really painful when they said this about me, or threw this at me, or scarred my arm with their fingernails, or threw knives at me, or whatever, raped me, all the evil things that they do. But when you can see them through Christ's eyes, then you can forgive. Then you're freed. And then you can command the demons to go. And then that way you can remember the traumas without the tears, without the pain, without the associated wanting to kill them attitude. And then you can trust the Lord. Trust the Lord. Trust the Lord. You got to get to that point. And it's not easy sometimes, because the enemy will cause you to make you feel like the things are the same as the past, currently in the present, or cause you to hear the voice of the enemy. Again, if you hear the enemy a lot, you're not going to be at peace. You're not going to be able to trust the Lord. And we're all in different stages of our growth in our life. We're all in different stages of where we're at. I'm not the same person I was a year ago, let alone 4 or 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago. We should be hopefully getting more delivered every day. Now, sadly, in most churches and stuff around the world, the demons don't want the people and the church leaders to talk about this and get people delivered, because then the demons would have to be freed from the people, go somewhere like the pit and burn, and the people would be free and truly delivered and happy and jovial and laugh. Now, there's a saying that blondes have more fun. No, delivered blondes, inner healed and delivered blondes have more fun. Inner healed and delivered brunettes, inner healed and delivered redheads, inner healed and delivered bald people, follically challenged, whatever you want to call. But they have a lot more fun. Why? Because they're not hearing a lot of the demons anymore. And I can speak from, and that's why, why do people follow anything that I say on Facebook? Well, because I've gone through some stuff, I've overcome that, and now I have peace in my life. I enjoy it. Here we are, a beautiful day in north of Atlanta, and it's peaceful. Birds are chirping, people are walking around this path, and that is what a person can have, but they have to be healed from the wounds of their past. Otherwise, those demons will keep tormenting their mind and cause them to be angry and bitter and angry at God and say, oh my gosh, why'd you have me go through this? I'm so ticked off at you, and what oftentimes, if you think about it, the Lord may be setting you up for a ministry. And then you count it all joy and say, oh my gosh, more Lord, more Lord. I wish I had more traumas that I overcame in life. I remember I had no aspirations to do ministry, period. Didn't want to do that. Grew up on a farm, had a lot of peace, but my mom and dad would tend to argue. Mom and dad argued a lot of times over money. Didn't have money. So then me being a kid said, okay, I'm going to find me a job that pays me hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And then I'm not going to have these striving and arguments that my parents did. That's what I chose to do, and I got a job that did that. I'm like, wow, this is great. Worked in banking, made tons of money, and yet I went through some things. My son went through some things. My ex-wife went through things that caused a lot of strife and arguing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're not arguing over money anymore. We can buy whatever we want. We can go on vacations. I remember once, I'll say this. We took a vacation out to Salt Lake City. It was a national karate tournament that my oldest son was in. He was very athletic, very good, but he also was tormented at times in his mind because of some stuff that happened to him. And I thought karate would be a good way of trying to control that stuff. So ultimately, we went out there, and he was one of the best performers out there. And then we took a couple of days for vacation. We drove to Yellowstone, and I remember he would just continually say things to cause strife. He couldn't just sit in the back and enjoy beautiful country. I remember once these 3 bison, buffalo, were walking down the road towards our vehicle. And so I got this on video, actually. I'm like, okay, everybody, be quiet. So we're all being quiet as these bison are coming by. And then all of a sudden, my son said something. And then this one big buffalo with a huge, massive head turns its head and looks, and my window's open in the car. And I'm like, my gosh, he could put his horn in here and flip the car over. He could kill us all. Well, it was because my son was being tormented. Torment, torment, torment. I didn't know that. Church didn't teach me that. Put him in Christian counseling, spent thousands of dollars on all kinds of counseling and medications, and none of it worked. He didn't have any peace. I didn't know it was demonic. Nobody told me this. I went to a big church, not one person there. They had a whole bunch of counselors there, but it did me no good. And then all it took was a teaching by my mentor for 15 minutes about authority. He goes, Nelson, you need to take authority, command the demons to go. I'm like, oh my gosh, doesn't he have to want that? Yes, he wants that. Get him delivered. So guess what? I prayed. Asked him if I could pray first, and he said yes, and that was all I needed as his acceptance. And then I prayed a prayer of like, I don't know, a minute. Said, I command every spirit that's not of the Lord to be gone in Jesus' name, and I release peace over your mind. He was 18 years old at the time. And the next day, he was completely delivered. And I'm like, say what? Why didn't I learn this like 10 years ago? And the Lord said, it's because it's part of your ministry. You had to walk through this pain. You had to endure this because there are millions of other people who are going through the same pain right now. And they're dying, and they need to know this. And there's so many people that are not being taught this in the church, and they're dying. And I'm like, well, that explains everything. That's why I went through this. So if you have gone through a bunch of crap, horrendous abuse and stuff in your life, then guess what? The Lord may want to use you to pay back the enemy for all that he did to you. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to pay the price? Or are you going to be angry at him? Say, oh my gosh, I'm so mad at you, God. Why didn't you stop this abuse from happening? I remember there was a woman that I met out in Seattle last year. Got to speak on Mother's Day. It's so cool. Last year I got to speak on Easter. Then I got to speak on Mother's Day at a church. And this year I'm going to speak at Easter service at Cooters in Luray, Virginia. Remember Cooters from Dukes of Hazzard? Mr. Cooter. He's there. He's got a place there. So anyways, I remember this woman that came up to me and she said, I was satanic ritually abused. Satanic ritually abused. Okay, that's one of the worst things you could have ever happen to you. And she said that there was a man that dressed up as Jesus that raped her, like over and over again. And he said, you know what? If there was a God, he would have stopped this. So you can imagine the demons that were in her. She would take an offense at the drop of a hat very easily. When I was taking people through the inner healing and deliverance, she was starting to manifest. She was actually coughing a lot. And so she didn't vomit, but she had a lot of demonic stuff, obviously. So what she needed to do to be freed from all this is to see those people through Christ's eyes and to get a word from the Lord showing her that these people that did this to you were being used by Satan to cause you to be infected with demons. And that's how it works. And so it would take a person sometimes, it could take them years to be delivered from that stuff. So count it all joy when you've gone through what you've gone through. Most of us have not been satanic ritually abused, but there have been probably millions that have been, So when we get delivered, then we can command the demons to go. And then we can discern the thoughts coming from the enemy and the feelings. And then we can be at peace. We can be at peace. And then you can trust the Lord. That's ultimately what the Lord wants us to do, is to have faith in trusting him to lead the way, to get out of the way, to let him lead us. I don't have it all figured out. When it comes to what I'm going to do this year in ministry, the Lord's given me some instructions just a couple weeks ago to do some things over the weekends, to do deliverance trainings and corporate sessions and private sessions. So every year, normally there's a different thing the Lord has me do, but it's like day to day, week to week, I don't know. I get my instructions as on a as needed basis, but I trust the Lord always. I have to trust the Lord for my finances, because I don't have, there's some that regularly donate, but in large part, I don't have things set up for partners and ways of drumming up support, because I just tell the Lord, I'm like, listen, if I'm worth anything, then the people's lives will see a change and they will be more peaceful, feel more peace, and see more health, greater health, and hopefully see their marriages saved. Again, it takes two people in a marriage. You can have one person that chooses to get delivered and freed, that's going to have a lot of peace, and you have another person that refuses to, and they'll have their demons, and those demons will manifest on the person that gets freed, and that person may have to separate. They may have to go through a divorce. That's what I had to go through, is I had to separate, because the Lord said, who are you going to serve, the demons in your spouse or me? Because if you serve the demons in your spouse, you'll never be able to do the calling. And there's millions of people's lives that I want to get delivered, that you get it, Nelson. You've gone through some stuff, and I want to use that pain. So again, the more pain that you've had to go through and walk through, and the Lord wants you to be healed and delivered so that you can actually help others, and then use that pain for a positive thing instead of a negative. So, all right. Boy, I haven't read hardly anything on my thing this time. Anyway, I'm going to read Proverbs 3:5-6. It says, trust in the Lord with all of your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. He will direct your paths. Right? Right. So, Philippians 4:6-7 says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. So, it's one thing to be told to be anxious for nothing, but it's another thing to actually do it and to walk it out. Now, you can tell people who are spiritually mature because they're going to be at peace. They don't have to keep talking and talking. They don't have to keep trying to prove to other people that, hey, I'm smart. Hey, I know things about the Lord. They don't have to prove it. They can just be at peace. And when the Lord wants to use them, they can be used. But there's things that we have to do to put into place so that we can have the peace and be anxious for nothing and trust in the Lord. So as long as you hear the enemy, you will be anxious. You will be fearful. You will be jealous. You will be prideful. You want to have other people look up to you and say, look at me. There's a lot of times that, well, all the time, when we aren't behaving in a peaceful way or a humble way in our lives, it's because of what's happened to us in the past. And when we can understand and see why people get triggered, it's because of unhealed soul wounds from their past, and they're listening to demons, then we can have compassion for them. We can have patience for them. So you can't trust the Lord until you have peace. And you can't have peace until you trust the Lord. So you have to have both into place. And you have to really be delivered, inner healing and deliverance. So anyways, looking forward to another great weekend. And then next weekend, coming to Florida, to Port Richey, and we'll be doing some training for those who want to get certified under Restorative Freedom. You need to attend one of the classes that we do, and then read 3 of my books, and then we can add you into the Restorative Freedom Deliverance team on Facebook. We can also add you to the website so you can help other people get delivered. But it is critical that we are delivered ourselves, because if we have anything in common with the enemy, then that's going to unfortunately spill over on other people. I had to go through my journey I had to understand this at a deep level and then have compassion for people and love people so I can be patient with the person and I can love people through Christ's ways of loving and not be judgmental, not be mean, not take an offense. People that have demons are going to manifest. They're going to say things to hurt you and provoke you. And it's our job to try to help guide them if they're willing to do the work. If they're not, we may have to block them. We may have to say, well, you're not ready yet to listen. And so when you're ready, you can come back and we can re-engage. But otherwise, there are times when a person wants to run the show and have you feel sorry for them and be mad and angry, and that's not what the Lord wants us to do. So anyway, so you can't have peace without trusting the Lord. So you got to get to the point to where you trust the Lord and you hear the Lord's voice and block out things from the enemy. Alrighty, I'm gonna end a little bit shorter because I got some sessions I have to do with some people in different parts of the country. So I will let you guys go and see you on YouTube and Facebook. Alrighty, love ya, see ya, bye-bye.